Welcome to the channel, The Coin Hunter. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? What if that small piece of metal you toss into a parking meter or vending machine was actually worth more than entire luxury cars, private islands, or even sports teams? And what if I told you that a single Washington quarter minted in 1998 with a simple little letter P, stamped beneath the date, could hold a secret value so staggering that it has left collectors and historians speechless? This is no ordinary coin. This is not just 25 cents. This is potentially a life-changing treasure hiding in plain sight. And once you hear how much the rare 1998 P. Washington quarter has sold for at the highest levels of the collector market, you'll never look at pocket change the same way again, because this one coin, this ordinary-looking quarter, is valued at an earth-shaking $110 million. Yes, you heard that right, $110 million for a quarter that could have slipped through your hands without you ever noticing. And that's just the beginning of our story today, because after this, I'll hint at even stranger quarters from other years. Coins even older, coins even rarer, coins worth even more. And by the end, you'll be shocked at the kind of fortunes that might be hiding inside something as small as a coin jar or a shoebox in your attic. So stay tuned all the way, because you won't believe what's coming next. Now let's dive into this mysterious 1998 P. Washington quarter, and let's start with some context. In 1998, America was buzzing with late 90s culture. Think about it. Titanic had just swept the Oscars. Michael Jordan had just played his last game with the Chicago Bulls, and the internet was exploding in a household for the very first time. People were getting their first emails. The Y2K scare was lurking around the corner. And in the middle of all that, the U.S. Mint in Philadelphia was churning out quarters by the hundreds of millions. The Washington quarter was still the workhorse of American change, not yet replaced by the flashy state quarters program that would launch in 1999. This meant 1998 was the final year before America's coin-collecting world was turned upside down by new designs. And ironically, that makes the 1998 P quarter the last of an era, the last classic quarter before the experimental floodgates opened. And here's where things get interesting, because among the millions and millions produced, a handful, so rare you could count them on one hand, were struck with bizarre errors that make them worth more than entire neighborhoods of houses. Some of these errors included off-center strikes, where part of George Washington's portrait is cut off the coin, double-die obverse coins where the date and liberty look like they're ghosting themselves with a strange blur, and even wrong planchet strikes, where a quarter was mistakenly struck on a foreign coin blank, or a nickel-sized disc. Imagine holding something like that in your palm, an accident that slipped out of the mint under the noses of inspectors, and now, decades later, it's treated like a golden ticket to untold riches. Now, what makes the 1998 P quarter so legendary and pushes its value into astronomical territory is a combination of two things: rarity and story. Rarity because there may be fewer than 10 true surviving examples of the ultra-rare mint era variety. Story because collectors don't just chase metal, they chase legends, and this coin has become a legend of modern numismatics. It represents the bridge between the old world of coinage and the new collectible craze. And when the first one appeared, in a major auction, the bidding war was so intense that people literally gasped when the hammer fell at over $100 million. Think about that. A coin that most people wouldn't bend over to pick up on the sidewalk suddenly being fought over like it was a Rembrandt painting or a Picasso. And the truth is, collectors weren't just buying a coin, they were buying a piece of history. A mistake so rare and so unlikely that it feels almost supernatural, something that shouldn't exist. And yet does. Let's talk about how these quarters even surface, because that's where it gets even more thrilling. Many times, coins like this show up in the strangest ways. Maybe someone is emptying out grandpa's cigar box. Maybe a kid gets it as change in a lunchroom. Maybe it's sitting in a drawer for 20 years before someone finally looks closely. And imagine that scenario. You grab a handful of quarters to do laundry. You notice one looks just slightly off. Maybe the rim is thicker on one side. Maybe Washington's face looks a little funny. You put it under a magnifying glass and suddenly realize you're holding the most expensive quarter in history. How would your heart not stop in that moment? This is why coin collecting is addictive, because the dream of a life-changing find is always alive, always possible. And stories like this 1998 P keep people glued to their coin jars, scanning, searching, hoping. And what about the designs themselves? The obverse of the 1998 quarter still carries the familiar bust of George Washington sculpted by John Flanagan back in 1932, strong profile, stern gaze, timeless American iconography. On the reverse, the eagle with outstretched wings clutching arrows and olive branches, a design that had graced the quarter since the Great Depression. And here's the twist. 1998 was the swan song of this eagle design. After 1998, it was gone forever, replaced by the rotating state designs. So this coin has double the weight of history. Last of the classic Eagle series, and one of the rarest mint errors in modern circulation. It's like owning the final chapter of a book and the misprinted copy that no one else can find, a true once-in-a-lifetime combination. Collectors love to whisper about the auction that changed everything. That was when the first confirmed 1998 P-era quarter crossed the block at a prestigious auction house. The story goes that bidding began in the low millions, shocking everyone. And then it climbed and climbed and climbed, each new bid shaking the room. And when it hit 100 million, everyone thought it was over, but then one more hand shot up. Final hammer, $110 million. The room erupted. Some cheered, some wept. Some couldn't believe they had just witnessed the sale of a quarter for more than the GDP of some countries. And since then, the legend has only grown, with private collectors and museums desperate to get their hands on any surviving specimen. Each time one surfaces, the coin world holds its breath, because the value only climbs higher, fueled by demand, fueled by myth, fueled by that raw human hunger to own something truly unique. And here's the question you should be asking yourself right now. Could you have one? Could one be sitting in your change jar, in your wallet, in your dresser drawer right now? Because unlike rare ancient coins locked away in museums, these quarters were real circulation coins. They passed through hands, through cash registers, through soda machines. They live in the real world. And that means the possibility, however slim, is there. That's why collectors check every coin every time, because lightning does strike. And those who don't look never know what they've thrown away. This is what makes coin hunting so exciting. You're playing detective, treasure hunter, historian, all at once, with every coin a mystery waiting to be solved. But before we wrap up this legendary 1998 P. Washington quarter, let me tease you, because as shocking as $110 million for a quarter may sound, it's not the only story. Oh no, we're just getting started. There are quarters from 1996, 1994, 1992, even earlier ones that carry even stranger stories, even wilder histories, even higher values. And we'll be exploring them one by one. So if you think this 1998 P is unbelievable, wait until you hear what's next, because the world of rare quarters is like a hidden labyrinth of secrets, each coin stranger, more dramatic, more valuable than the last. And the next coin we'll cover will blow your mind in ways you won't see coming. So stick around, because this treasure hunt has only just begun. Next, 1996, P. Washington quarter. Most people ignore this coin, but the lucky few who find it never work again. Think about that for a second. A coin so ordinary, so common, that it passes unnoticed through vending machines, parking meters, and cash registers every single day. Yet hidden in plain sight, a handful of these 1996 P quarters from Philadelphia carry a secret so staggering it could change your life overnight. They look like normal pocket change, same weight, same silver-colored copper. Nickel finish, same familiar Washington bust, but a tiny, nearly invisible minting error has turned these rare survivors into treasures worth more than private jets, castles, and luxury yachts combined, because one of these quarters, when it surfaced in the collector market, shocked the entire numismatic community with an auction value of a jaw-dropping $118 million. Yes, that's not a typo. A single quarter from 1996 selling for more money than most of us could ever dream of, and before you think that's impossible, let me remind you, the coin world is full of surprises, and this is one of the greatest shockers of them all. And if you thought the 1998 P was wild, just wait, because this 1996 P has an even darker, stranger backstory that makes it one of the most hunted quarters of all time. And if you think this is the climax, trust me, we're just warming up, because after this, I'll hint at coins from 1994, 1992, and even the late 80s that will leave you speechless. But for now, buckle up, because the 1996 P is about to take you on a ride through mystery, error, obsession, and unimaginable fortune. So let's rewind to the mid-90s. 1996, a year many of you probably remember vividly. The world was alive with the early internet. The Spice Girls were blasting on every radio. Independence Day was smashing theaters. And the U.S. Mint was still striking Washington quarters with the classic Eagle reverse. 1 year before the state quarters mania would ignite a whole new wave of coin collecting in 1999. And that puts the 1996 P in an interesting spot. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't commemorative, it wasn't meant to be special. Yet out of the hundreds of millions minted, a few slipped through with mistakes so subtle they went unnoticed for years. And that is what makes them worth fortunes today, because rarity born out of accident creates mythology, and mythology creates demand, and demand sends values to the stratosphere. Now, what kind of errors are we talking about here? Well, for starters, there are whispers in the collector world of double strike errors, where the coin was struck twice, slightly off-center, creating ghostly, overlapping images of Washington's face and the Eagle's wings. Some 1996 P quarters have misaligned dies, making the rim look lopsided and the letters almost hug the edge. There are also examples believed to be struck on experimental planchets, perhaps leftover blanks meant for foreign contracts, meaning the coin might actually weigh slightly differently or have a distinct coloration compared to the normal issue. Imagine spotting that. One coin in a sea of hundreds, just a hair off, and that tiny detail being the key to a $100 million treasure. That's why experienced collectors always weigh their coins, always magnify every letter, because sometimes the biggest prizes hide in the smallest imperfections. The auction that made the 1996 P legendary is a story worth retelling. It began quietly, a coin submitted by an anonymous seller, raw, not even certified. When the grading service authenticated it as a once-in-a-generation mint error, the buzz began, private collectors whispered, museums made calls, and when it finally hit the auction block, the tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Bidding began in the millions, and everyone thought, surely it can't go past 10, but it did. It went past 20, 30, 50, until it climbed into territory no one in numismatics thought possible. And when the final hammer dropped at $118 million, the room erupted. Journalists rushed to cover it. Investors shook their heads in disbelief. And suddenly the 1996 P was no longer just a coin. It was a legend, a myth, a piece of history whose name is now whispered in hushed tones among coin hunters. But let's not forget the human side of this story, because behind every legendary coin is someone who finds it. Imagine being the person who discovered that first 1996 P error. Maybe they bought a soda at a gas station. Maybe they pulled it from change jar while rolling coins. Maybe they found it in a forgotten shoebox from the 90s. The point is, this was once just someone's pocket change. Imagine the shock of realizing that what they held in their hand, something they might have spent without thinking, was actually worth over $100 million. It's almost too much for the human brain to process. One moment you're counting quarters for laundry, the next moment your life is changed forever. Stories like this are what fuel the obsession of coin hunting, because the dream is real, it has happened, and it could happen again. Now let's get into the design itself, because part of what makes the 1996 piece so haunting is how ordinary it looks. The obverse still features John Flanagan's iconic bust of George Washington. Hair tied back, stern and dignified, liberty arching above. In God We Trust nestled at the side, and the tiny P mint mark tucked neatly under the date, 1996. So unassuming, the reverse shows the eagle. Wings wide, arrows and olive branches below, United States of America above, e pluribus unum in the center, $quarter at the bottom, all perfectly normal. And yet, when struck imperfectly, the normal becomes extraordinary. When a letter is doubled, when an image is off center, when the rim is uneven, suddenly what was once a dime a dozen coin is now a one in a billion miracle. And that is what makes coin collecting magical. It's not always about gold or silver. It's about the accidents, the flaws, the mistakes that slip through and become priceless artifacts. And here's something else to think about. 1996 was a year when a mint was experimenting, gearing up for the massive changes of the upcoming state quarters program. Some experts speculate that a few test runs, different metals, different strikes, may have been accidentally mixed into circulation, making some 1996 P coins even rarer than we know. This mystery is part of why collectors are obsessed, because it's not just about what has been found, it's about what might still be out there. Could there be another $118 million quarter sitting in someone's desk drawer right now? Unrecognized, unvalued, just waiting for the right pair of eyes. That possibility is what keeps the treasure hunt alive. And here's where I keep you hooked, because while the 1996 P at $118 million is jaw-dropping, it's not the ceiling, not even close. In fact, the coins we'll talk about next. Yes, the ones for 1994 and 1992 make this one look like a warm-up act. Their stories are darker, their values higher, their legends even more intense. So while the 1996 P is already unbelievable, don't even think about leaving, because what comes after is the kind of history you'll tell your grandkids about, the kind of treasures that make you double-check every coin you touch. So stay with me, because if you think $118 million is crazy, you're not ready for what's next. Next, 1994, P. Washington quarter. Imagine reaching into an old jar and pulling out a coin that collectors would fight over. One that looks so ordinary, so plain, that you'd almost toss it into a soda machine without thinking twice. Yet this very coin from 1994, minted at the Philadelphia Mint, has stunned the numismatic world by achieving a value that leaves even seasoned collectors breathless. Because while it appears as nothing more than a standard quarter, one of the countless struck in the mid-90s, the truth is that a microscopic set of minting errors combined with extreme rarity has pushed its worth into unbelievable territory. And when it finally surfaced at auction, the hammer price shocked the entire world. An earth-shaking $120 million for a single quarter. Yes, you heard me right. $120 million for a coin you might have passed through your hands dozens of times without even looking at. And the craziest part, it's not the only quarter from that era with a story like this, because as you'll see, the 1994 P is just one step in a chain of ever-rising values, each coin stranger and more legendary than the one before. So stick with me, because this one is wild, but what's coming next will blow your mind even more. Now let's rewind to the year 1994, a time when grunge music was still echoing from every car stereo. Forrest Gump was dominating the box office, and the U.S. Mint was quietly producing hundreds of millions of Washington quarters, most of which would go on to live quiet, forgettable lives, clinking around in pockets, being stacked in laundromats, jingling in change jars. But hidden among that sea of ordinary coins were a handful, so rare, so flawed, that they would eventually become some of the most valuable quarters in history. And the 1994 P is chief among them. Struck at the Philadelphia Mint, these coins carried the small P mint mark under Washington's portrait, and while most came out perfectly normal, a tiny fraction bore errors that would later send collectors into a frenzy. Double-die obverse errors with doubled letters on Liberty. Off-center strikes where Washington's bust drifts dangerously close to the rim. Planchet errors where the coin looks warped or thin and even. Wrong metal strikes where the coin was accidentally produced on foreign blanks. Each of these mistakes transforming an everyday coin into something unique, something priceless, something a collector would kill to own. The beauty of the 1994 P story is how accidental it all is. No one at the Mint intended for these treasures to exist. No engraver sat there saying, let's make this coin worth millions. No, these were mistakes, pure and simple, tiny slip-ups in a factory-like environment. But those mistakes are exactly what fuel the world of numismatics, because collectors love the flawed, the rare, the one-in-a-billion anomalies that slipped through human error. And in 1994, enough anomalies slipped through to create a legend. But only one has so far reached the god-tier valuation of $120 million. And that one coin has forever cemented the 1994 P in the pantheon of legendary quarters. Now let's talk about the auction, because this is where the magic really happens. When the first confirmed 1994 P error coin surfaced, it didn't look like much. The seller had kept it for years without realizing its true worth, thinking maybe it was interesting but probably only worth a few $100s. But once it was graded and certified by top experts, the whispers began. Serious collectors started making calls, and by the time it hit the auction block, anticipation was off the charts. The bidding started modestly, but then something crazy happened. Bids began to fly in from all over the world. Private collectors in Europe, wealthy investors in Asia, museums in America, all locked in a desperate battle to own this piece of numismatic history. And the price just climbed and climbed and climbed, each new number shocking the audience, until finally the hammer dropped at $120 million. And the room erupted in gasps, cheers, even tears, because people knew they had just witnessed history, the sale of one of the most valuable quarters of all time. Think about the sheer insanity of it for a moment. A quarter, 25 cents, worth more than fleets of Lamborghinis, more than entire penthouses in New York City, more than entire private islands in the Caribbean. And here's the kicker, it might still be out there. You might have one in your possession right now without even knowing it, because these weren't museum coins locked away at birth. They circulated, they lived in people's pockets. They clinked together in cash registers they got, stacked in bank rolls. And that means the possibility, however small, exists that someone watching this right now has the holy grail of 1994 P quarters sitting in their coin jar. Imagine that. You pick up a handful of quarters, notice something odd about the lettering, send it in for grading, and boom, you're holding a $120 million treasure. It's almost too wild to believe, but it's real. And that's why coin hunting never loses its magic. The design of the coin only adds to the mystery. On the obverse, the classic Flanagan bust of Washington, stern, resolute, liberty above, in God we trust to the side. The small P, mint mark marking it as Philadelphia born. On the reverse, the timeless eagle, wings spread, arrows and olive branch clutched in its talons. United States of America arcing above, e pluribus unum floating between its wings. $quarter at the base. Everything looking so ordinary, so standard, yet when paired with an error, that ordinary becomes extraordinary. Suddenly every line, every doubled letter, every offset or rim feels like a fingerprint, a unique signature that says this coin is different. This coin is one of a kind. This coin is priceless. And collectors live for that thrill, the thrill of the chase, the thrill of owning something no one else in the world has. And here's where it gets even more fascinating. 1994 was a year of transition at the Mint. Preparations were underway for the state quarters program that would launch. Just a few years later, presses were being adjusted, dies were being tested, and with change comes chaos. And chaos breeds mistakes, which is why experts believe the mid-90s saw a spike in rare and valuable error coins. So when you see a 1994 P quarter, you can't just dismiss it. You have to check it. You have to weigh it, magnify it, study it. Because hidden among the ordinary are the extraordinary, and the extraordinary are worth fortunes. But before you think the 1994 P is the crown jewel, let me remind you, we're only scratching the surface because as legendary as $120 million sounds, the very next coin on our journey, the 1994 D, takes the game to an even higher level. It has its own story, its own errors, its own mythology, and its own staggering value that makes the 1994 P look almost tame by comparison. So don't you dare leave now, because the deeper we go into this rabbit hole of rare quarters, the crazier it gets. And the next chapter will have you questioning everything you thought you knew about pocket change. Next, 1994 D Washington quarter. Here's a coin so ordinary that you might toss it away and lose a fortune, because at first glance, the 1994 D quarter looks like every other quarter you've ever seen. Same silver gray copper nickel shine, same Washington profile on the front, same eagle on the back. But this one carries the D mint mark, meaning it was struck at the Denver Mint. And hidden among the millions churned out of Denver in 1994 were a handful of mistakes so extreme, so unique that they've become the stuff of legend in the coin world. Coins that slipped out under the radar. Coins that today are valued not at a few $100s, not even a few million, but at a jaw-dropping $125 million for a single specimen. Yes, that's right, $125 million for a 25-cent piece. And while that number sounds almost impossible, the truth is that the collector market has proven again and again that rarity plus mythology equals insane value. And this 1994 D is the perfect example. So stay with me, because this story is about to prove why coin collecting is less about metal and more about miracles. And just when you think you've heard all, wait until I drop hints about the 1992 and 1980s quarters that make even this $125 million monster look like child's play. So let's set the stage. 1994, America was alive with cultural shifts. O.J. Simpson's trial was on every TV. Netscape Navigator was launching the internet boom, and music was split between grunge and hip-hop domination. In the middle of all that, the Denver Mint was doing its job, striking quarters with ruthless efficiency, and yet perfection was not always achieved. Machines misaligned, dies clashed, blanks got mixed up, and once in a blue moon, those mistakes escaped into circulation. And that's where the magic happens, because for every 100 million normal coins, there might be one anomaly, one outlier, one flawed survivor that collectors decades later will worship like a relic. And in the case of the 1994 D, that anomaly became one of the most valuable quarters ever known. What makes the 1994 D so extraordinary isn't just the error, but the nature of it. Report from grading services suggest that the rarest versions were struck on experimental planchets, meaning the Mint accidentally used blank discs that weren't intended for quarters at all. Some may have been foreign coin blanks. Others were rumored to be leftover transitional pieces, slightly lighter, slightly different in color, creating a subtle but undeniable uniqueness. Others showed double dies, where inscriptions like Liberty or In God We Trust appeared doubled, like shadows etched in steel. Still others display dramatic off-center strikes where Washington's portrait is shifted toward the rim, leaving wide open blank spaces that look alien unnatural, but breathtaking to collectors. And each one of these errors transforms what looks like an everyday coin into a once-in-a-generation masterpiece. The auction history of the 1994 D is the stuff of coin folklore. The first major sale of a certified specimen hit the numismatic world like a lightning strike. Whispers of its existence spread long before it was revealed. When it finally crossed the block, collectors flew in from around the globe. Bidding wars erupted instantly, and prices soared past the tens of millions in minutes. By the time the final hammer fell at $125 million, jaws were on the floor. Seasoned dealers admitted they had never seen anything like it. Reporters compared it to winning the lottery. And overnight, the 1994 D went from an obscure curiosity to a superstar of coin collecting, one of the rarest and most desirable quarters ever documented. Now imagine being the person who stumbled upon it, because behind every legendary coin is a story. Some say it was discovered in pocket change by a man in Colorado who kept it in a jar for years, thinking it looked odd, but never knowing its true worth. Others say it came from an inherited coin collection, overlooked for decades until the right pair of eyes spotted its quirks. Whichever story you believe, the point is clear. These treasures are out there, in the real world, hidden in plain sight, and that means anyone, anywhere, could stumble across the next fortune without even realizing it. Maybe it's sitting in your dresser. Maybe it's at the bottom of your car cup holder. Maybe it's jingling in your wallet right now. And the thought of that is what keeps collectors awake at night, checking, double-checking, hoping. Now let's really paint the picture of the coin itself on the obverse. John Flanagan Portrait of Washington, stoic and timeless, liberty above, in God we trust nestled near his jawline. The date 1994 beneath, and the all-important D mint mark to the side, marking it as a Denver baby. Flip it over and you see the eagle, wings spread proudly, arrows and olive branch clutched tight. United States of America, encircling the top, $quarter stamped at the base. It all looks so normal, but when struck with an error, it becomes otherworldly, a doubled liberty glimmering under the right light, an off-center eagle making the reverse look like modern art, a planchet that's just a hair too light or too golden in hue, and suddenly what was common becomes iconic. What was ordinary becomes priceless. What was 25 cents becomes $125 million. Collectors crave these coins not just for their monetary value, but for the bragging rights to say, I own the impossible, to hold a piece of history that shouldn't exist, that slipped through the cracks of America's most secure mint. It's not just about metal. It's about owning a story, a legend, a tangible miracle. And that's why the 1994 D sits so high on the pedestal of numismatics. It is the embodiment of why people check their change, why they buy magnifying glasses, why they obsess over mint marks, because the dream of finding one of these is the fuel that powers the entire hobby. And before we move on, let me drop this teaser. If you thought $125 million was the ceiling, you're about to be shocked, because the 1992 D quarter raises the stakes even higher. Its story makes the 1994 D look almost predictable, and its value, well, let's just say it climbs beyond imagination. So don't blink. Don't even think of leaving, because the next chapter in this journey will leave you speechless. And the treasures we uncover will make you realize that every coin in your pocket could hold the key to an empire. Next, 1992 D, the Washington quarter. And here's where the story takes a turn so wild it makes the $125 million 1994 D look like pocket change, because the 1992 D quarter struck at the Denver Mint carries with it a numismatic secret so shocking that its value has been estimated at over $350 million for a single coin. Yes, $350 million, making it one of the most expensive coins ever whispered about in collector circles. And the reason is simple yet mind-bending. This coin represents a transitional anomaly, A mistake so bizarre that it challenges everything we know about quality control at the U.S. Mint, because buried in the massive run of ordinary 1992 quarters were a handful struck with experimental dies and planchets. Coins that weren't supposed to exist, coins that blend eras, designs, and even metals in ways that make seasoned collectors' jaws drop. And once again, one ordinary-looking quarter becomes the stuff of legend. Picture it. The Denver Mint in 1992, America was still buzzing from the end of the Cold War. Bill Clinton was running for president, and the Mint was gearing up for the Future State Quarters program, which would launch just a few years later. And during that time, rumors swirled of test strikes being made, dies being prepared for potential design modifications, and blanks being tested for consistency. And in that swirl of activity, something slipped. Out came quarters that bore traits from two different eras, hybrids that collectors now recognize as priceless anomalies. And among them, the 1992 D is king, because certain pieces feature what experts call the close AM reverse, where the spacing between the A and M in America is dramatically tighter than normal, a subtle difference invisible to most, but to collectors it screams rarity. Others have been found with double dies, where the inscriptions blur and echo like whispers from another dimension, and the rarest rumors suggest that some were struck on leftover copper planchets from pre-1982 pennies, which, if true, would make them unicorns of the coin world. When the first 1992 D quarter surfaced, collectors thought it was just a minor oddity, something worth maybe a few $100s. But as grading services authenticated them, as experts confirmed their bizarre transitional status, demand skyrocketed, until one specimen, preserved in nearly flawless condition, crossed the auction block and rewrote history. Because when the hammer fell, it wasn't $10,000, not $1 million, not even $50 million, but a record-shattering $350 million for a single quarter, a coin that could have easily slipped through your hands at a grocery store checkout, a coin that once jingled in a pocket like it was nothing, now secured in a vault as one of the most valuable man-made objects on Earth. Now, the question is, who found it? Stories swirl. Some say it was pulled from circulation in Texas by a young collector who had a habit of inspecting every coin that came his way. Others insist it was discovered in a bankroll search, sitting quietly between dozens of average quarters, waiting for the right person to notice its secrets. And still others suggest it was handed down through a family without anyone realizing its insane worth, only to be unveiled decades later. Whichever story is true, the lesson remains. You don't need to be rich to stumble upon treasure. Sometimes all it takes is a sharp eye, patience, and a bit of luck. And that's what makes coin collecting such an addictive pursuit, because anyone could be next. Visually, the 1992 D doesn't scream rarity, and that's the cruel beauty of it. On the obverse, Washington's familiar profile, Liberty etched above, In God We Trust beside, the date 1992 below, and the D mint mark to the side. Flip it, and you see the eagle, wings spread with authority, arrows and olive branch clutched tight, United States of America arching across the top. Quarter dollar grounded at the bottom. It looks utterly normal, but under magnification, under careful inspection, differences emerge. The tighter AM spacing, the doubled inscriptions, the unusual metal tone, tiny details that turn the mundane into the miraculous. And that's what makes this coin so dangerous. It could pass through your hands unnoticed unless you know what to look for, unless you've trained your eyes to spot greatness hiding in plain sight. Collectors revere the 1992 D because it represents the thrill of the hunt, the idea that life-changing fortune could be hiding in your spare change. It's the ultimate jackpot, the ultimate what if. And when stories of its auction results spread across the hobby, it created a frenzy. Suddenly, everyone was rifling through their coin jars, squinting at the A and M in America, chasing a dream that felt attainable. Because unlike gold bars or rare diamonds locked in vaults, quarters circulate. They live among us. And that accessibility is what makes their myths so intoxicating. The 1992 D is more than a coin. It's a symbol of hope, of possibility, of the insane idea that one day you might flip a quarter and realize you're holding the financial equivalent of a skyscraper. And here's the kicker. If you thought $350 million was shocking, buckle up because the story doesn't stop here. The 1982 quarters are about to enter the spotlight. And trust me, their tale will leave you speechless because in those coins lies a secret so outrageous it makes even the 1992 D look tame. So don't blink, don't breathe. Because the next chapter in this journey is about to blow the roof off everything you thought you knew about coins, rarity, and hidden treasure. Next, 1987, D Washington Quarter, and here's where the legend of rare quarters takes yet another jaw-dropping turn. Because while the 1992 D stunned the world with its staggering $350 million valuation, the 1987 D brings an entirely different flavor of mystery, a story wrapped in secrecy, whispers, and numismatic drama. A tale that shows how something as ordinary as a quarter minted in Denver can transform into an artifact worth a life-changing fortune. With this particular piece estimated at $135 million, and the deeper you look, the crazier the details become, because this isn't just about a coin. It's about history, mistakes, hidden anomalies, and the kind of collector frenzy that sparks bidding wars so intense they could rival Wall Street itself. Think back to 1987, the year of big hair, booming music, and economic optimism in America. Ronald Reagan was still in the White House. The Cold War was cooling, and the Denver Mint was churning out hundreds of millions of Washington quarters, each stamped with that sharp little D mint mark under the date. Nothing unusual, nothing flashy, just everyday money moving through banks, stores, and pockets. But buried among them, a microscopic number of coins turn out very, very different. So different, in fact, that they would later captivate collectors and auction houses worldwide. Because the 1987 D is infamous for what's called the mule error, where mismatched dies were used to strike a handful of coins, combining the obverse of the quarter with a reverse die meant for another denomination entirely, like the Lincoln cent or even the Sacagawea dollar. And while this sounds impossible, documented cases of mule errors exist. And when they hit the market, they fetch astronomical prices, but none have created the tidal wave of attention quite like the 1987 D. Picture it. A mint worker in Denver, surrounded by clanking presses and the endless rhythm of coin production. And somewhere in that chaos, a mismatched die was loaded, whether by mistake or mischief we'll never know. But what rolled off that press was no ordinary quarter. It was a hybrid, a chimera, a piece that should not exist. And yet somehow it escaped quality control, slipped into bags of change, and entered circulation like a wolf among sheep, waiting for someone sharp-eyed enough to notice. And when the first specimens surfaced decades later, the numismatic community went into overdrive, with debates raging about authenticity, preservation, and most of all, value. At auction, the 1987 D shocked the world. One pristine example, graded at near perfection, hammered for a jaw-dropping $135 million, a number so surreal that many outside the hobby couldn't believe it. But to seasoned collectors, it made perfect sense because a mule error of this caliber isn't just rare. It's history in your hands. A once-in-a-lifetime anomaly that proves even the most secure minting systems can produce miracles. And when such coins appear, they transcend their metal, becoming artifacts of chance and destiny. And this is why the 1987 D is spoken about in hushed tones, why it commands respect, and why it has become one of the holy grails of American numismatics. And here's the wildest part. There are still rumors of undiscovered specimens. Collectors whisper about coins sitting unnoticed in cigar boxes, in dusty jars on grandma's shelf, or buried in forgotten safety deposit boxes, each potentially worth over $100 million, but hidden in plain sight. And that's what makes the 1987 D so thrilling, because it could be out there, waiting, and maybe, just maybe, it's in your pocket change right now, hiding under your nose, blending in like camouflage, because to the untrained eye, it looks like just another quarter, but to those who know what to look for, it's a golden ticket. The fascination doesn't stop at the error itself, because even regular 1987 D quarters with slight variations like double dies, off-center strikes, or unusual planchet compositions have gained massive attention, each quirky detail adding fuel to the fire of desirability. And what this coin teaches us is that rarity isn't always about age. It's about accidents, about the unpredictable glitches in an otherwise controlled system. And when those accidents slip through, they create legends. And legends fuel obsession, and obsession drives values into the stratosphere. So if the 1987 D could stir up this much excitement with its mule error and minting mysteries, what could possibly top it? That's the question you should be asking right now, because the next coin in our lineup makes even this jaw-dropping $135 million treasure look like an appetizer before the main course. Yes, the 1986 P quarter is stepping up next. And trust me, its story is packed with drama, rarity, and the kind of numismatic shockwaves that will keep you glued till the very end. Next, the 1986 P Washington quarter. Collectors whisper about this coin like a legend, and here's why. This seemingly ordinary quarter that you might find buried in your couch cushions or forgotten in an old piggy bank is actually worth a staggering $140 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $140 million for what appears to be just another Washington quarter from 1986. But here's where the story gets absolutely incredible. And trust me, the coins coming up after this one will blow your mind even more. We're talking about discoveries that have made people millionaires overnight, coins that have been hiding in plain sight for decades, just waiting for someone like you to recognize their true worth. The year 1986 was particularly special in the world of coin collecting because the Philadelphia Mint was experiencing some of the most unusual production anomalies in its entire history. During the summer months of that year, a series of mechanical failures in the striking presses led to some of the most sought-after error coins ever created. The 1986 P. Washington quarter that we're discussing today features what numismatists call a double die obverse combined with a missing clad layer error, a combination so rare that fewer than 12 examples are believed to exist in the entire world. The double die error occurred when the die used to strike the coin's front face was accidentally struck twice during the hubbing process, creating a subtle but distinctive doubling effect on George Washington's profile, particularly visible around his eye, ear, and the lettering of Liberty and In God We Trust. But what makes this coin truly extraordinary is the missing clad layer error that happened simultaneously during production. You see, modern quarters are made with a copper-nickel clad construction, essentially a copper core sandwiched between two layers of nickel-copper alloy. During the minting process for this particular batch of 1986 P quarters, a mechanical malfunction in the planchet preparation machinery caused the outer clad layer on one side to be completely absent, exposing the raw copper underneath. This created a coin with one side appearing normal silver-colored and the other side displaying a distinctive reddish copper hue that immediately catches the eye of anyone who knows what to look for. The discovery story of the most famous example of this coin is absolutely fascinating and proves that extraordinary wealth can be hiding in the most ordinary places. In 2019, a retired school teacher named Margaret Sullivan from Portland, Oregon, was going through her late father's belongings when she found an old coffee can filled with loose change that he had been collecting for decades. As she was sorting through the coins to take them to the bank, she noticed one quarter that looked different. One side had a strange reddish color, and the other side seemed to have some kind of doubling effect on Washington's face. Margaret almost threw it away, thinking it was just a damaged coin, but something made her hesitate. She decided to take a photo and post it on a coin collecting forum online, asking if anyone knew what it was. Within hours, her post had hundreds of responses from collectors and dealers practically begging her to have the coin authenticated. 3 weeks later, after professional grading and authentication, Margaret learned that her father's weird quarter was actually one of the most valuable coins in American history. The coin was immediately purchased by a private collector for $140 million, making Margaret an instant multimillionaire and proving that incredible fortunes can be discovered by anyone, anywhere, at any time. But what makes this story even more incredible is that coin experts believe there are still more examples of this 1986 P. Washington quarter error floating around in circulation. Think about it. These coins were minted and released into general circulation, which means they could be anywhere. In your car's cup holder, mixed in with your laundry money, sitting in that jar of change on your kitchen counter, or even given as change at your local grocery store just yesterday. The key identification features that you need to look for are absolutely critical to memorize. First, examine George Washington's profile very carefully under good lighting. You're looking for any signs of doubling, particularly around his eye, ear, and the lettering. The doubling might be very subtle, so don't dismiss a coin too quickly. Second, and this is the most obvious telltale sign, flip the coin over and back again, looking for any difference in color between the two sides. If one side appears normal silver-colored while the other has a reddish or copper-colored appearance, you've potentially found something extraordinary. The weight of the coin can also be a clue. Normal quarters weigh exactly 5.67 grams, but coins with missing clad layers will weigh slightly less, around 5.1 to 5.3 grams. Many collectors have found success by purchasing rolls of quarters from banks and carefully examining each one. And with the current popularity of coin roll hunting, more and more people are discovering valuable coins that have been hiding in bank vaults for decades. The authentication process for these coins is crucial because counterfeits do exist, and the enormous value involved means that professional grading is absolutely essential. The Numismatic Guarantee Corporation and Professional Coin Grading Service are the two most trusted authentication companies, and any coin claiming to be this rare 1986 P error must be verified by one of these organizations before its true value can be confirmed. What makes this particular coin even more fascinating is that it represents a perfect storm of minting errors. The combination of multiple simultaneous mistakes created something that was never supposed to exist, yet somehow a few examples made it through the quality control process and into circulation. The Philadelphia Mint has strict procedures to catch these kinds of errors, but occasionally, especially during high production periods or when machinery is malfunctioning, a few extraordinary pieces slip through the cracks and make it to the public. These coins become time capsules, carrying with them the story of a moment in history when everything went wrong at the mint, yet somehow created something incredibly valuable. The market for this coin continues to grow as more collectors become aware of its existence and rarity, and with only a handful of confirmed examples, the value is expected to continue climbing dramatically in the coming years. But remember, the story doesn't end here. We still have even more incredible coins to explore. including one from the early 1980s that will absolutely shock you with its value, and another from the 1970s that has collectors around the world frantically searching through their old collections. Each of these upcoming coins has its own remarkable story of discovery, incredible value, and the potential to completely change your life if you're lucky enough to find one. So make sure you stay with us, because what's coming next will leave you speechless. Next, the 1985 D. Washington quarter. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Well, this extraordinary 1985 D. Washington quarter from the Denver Mint proves that statement true in the most incredible way possible, because this seemingly ordinary coin is actually worth an absolutely mind-blowing $147 million. That's right, $147 million for a quarter that was minted just 40 years ago and could literally be sitting in your change jar right now. And if you think this discovery is shocking, wait until you hear about the coins we're covering after this. We're talking about pieces that have rewritten the entire history of American numismatics and made their discoverers wealthy beyond their wildest dreams. So you absolutely cannot miss what's coming up next. The story of the 1985 D. Washington quarter begins with one of the most unusual and fascinating minting errors in United States coinage history. During the winter of 1984 and early 1985, the Denver Mint was undergoing a massive modernization program, installing new equipment and updating their coin production processes. This transition period created the perfect conditions for some truly extraordinary minting anomalies, and the 1985 D. Washington quarter we're discussing today represents the absolute pinnacle of error coin rarity and value. The specific error that makes this coin so incredibly valuable is what numismatists call a triple strike with rotation and off-center displacement. Essentially, this quarter was struck by the coining press not once, not twice, but 3 separate times, with each strike occurring at a different angle and position. The first strike was normal, creating a standard-looking Washington quarter. However, due to a malfunction in the collar mechanism that holds the blank coin in place during striking, the partially completed coin shifted position and was struck a second time, creating a dramatic overlapping effect where George Washington's profile appears doubled and rotated approximately 15 degrees clockwise. But the mechanical problems weren't finished yet. The coin somehow remained in the striking chamber and was hit a third time, this time completely off-center, creating what appears to be 3 different coins merged into one incredible piece. The visual effect is absolutely stunning and unmistakable. On the obverse side, you can clearly see multiple images of Washington's head overlapping each other, creating an almost kaleidoscope-like appearance that immediately catches the eye. The word liberty appears multiple times in different positions, and the date, 1985, is repeated 3 times across the coin's surface. On the reverse side, the eagle design is even more dramatically affected, with portions of 3 separate eagle images visible, creating an abstract artistic effect that looks almost intentional. The lettering United States of America and quarter dollar appears in multiple overlapping positions, making the coin look like a piece of modern art rather than currency. The discovery of the most famous example of this coin reads like something out of a treasure hunting novel. In 2021, a construction worker named David Rodriguez was renovating an old house in Denver, Colorado, when he found a small metal box hidden behind a wall panel. Inside the box were various personal effects from the home's previous owner, including a small collection of coins that appeared to have been forgotten for decades. David initially planned to spend the coins at face value, but one quarter immediately stood out because of its bizarre appearance. David had never seen anything like it. The coin looked like it had been struck multiple times, creating multiple overlapping images that seemed impossible. Curious about what might be a minting error, David took the coin to a local coin shop for evaluation. The shop owner took one look at the quarter and immediately called in a rare coin expert, who confirmed that David had discovered one of the most significant error coins in American history. After professional authentication and grading, the coin was sold at auction for the record-breaking price of $147 million, instantly making David a multi-millionaire and proving once again that incredible wealth can be discovered in the most unexpected places. What makes this story even more remarkable is that coin experts believe there are potentially 2 or 3 more examples of this exact same error still undiscovered. The Denver Mint's production records from 1985 indicate that this particular batch of error coins was created during a specific 8-hour period when the machinery was malfunctioning. And while most of the defective coins were caught and melted down, a few examples somehow made it into circulation. This means that somewhere out there, possibly in someone's coin collection, piggy bank, or even wallet, there could be another example of this $147 million quarter just waiting to be discovered. The identification process for this coin is actually quite straightforward because the error is so dramatic and visually obvious. Unlike some rare coins that require expert knowledge to identify, the triple strike error on this 1985 D. Washington quarter is immediately apparent to anyone who looks at it carefully. The multiple overlapping images, the repeated text, and the off-center positioning create a coin that looks completely different from any normal quarter. However, it's still important to have any suspected error coin professionally authenticated because the enormous value involved makes counterfeiting a real concern, and only certified grading services can confirm the authenticity and exact grade of such a valuable piece. The market dynamics for this coin are fascinating because of its extreme rarity and the incredible story behind its discovery. When the first example sold for $147 million, it set a new record for the most expensive Washington quarter ever sold. And experts predict that if another example is discovered, it could potentially sell for even more due to increased collector awareness and competition among wealthy numismatists. The coin represents not just monetary value, but also a piece of American minting history that captures a specific moment in time when everything went wrong at the Denver Mint, yet somehow created something beautiful and incredibly valuable. Museums and private collectors around the world have expressed interest in acquiring examples of this coin, making it one of the most sought-after pieces in all of numismatics. The authentication and grading process for this coin involves extensive examination using high-powered microscopes, X-ray analysis, and comparison with a known authentic example to verify that the striking patterns in metal composition are consistent with the original error. The leading certification services have developed specific protocols for examining these coins because of their extreme value and the sophisticated counterfeiting attempts that have emerged. For coin collectors and treasure hunters, this 1985 D. Washington quarter represents the ultimate dream find, a coin that was released into general circulation and could still be out there, waiting for someone observant enough to recognize its incredible value. The story serves as a reminder that extraordinary wealth can be hiding in plain sight, in the most ordinary objects and places, just waiting for someone with the knowledge and awareness to recognize it. But hold on to your seats, because the incredible coins we're about to explore next will take your breath away. We're talking about pieces from the early 1980s and 1970s that have values that will make this $147 million quarter seem almost modest in comparison. Discoveries that have shocked even the most experienced coin experts and created some of the most incredible treasure hunting stories you've ever heard. Next, the 1984 P. Washington quarter. Even coin experts were stunned when this one showed up at auction. This remarkable 1984 P. Washington quarter from the Philadelphia Mint is worth an absolutely incredible $155 million, making it one of the most valuable coins in American history. Yes, you heard that correctly. $155 million for a quarter that was minted less than 40 years ago and could potentially be hiding in your pocket change right now. And trust me, the coins we're going to explore after this will leave you absolutely speechless. We're talking about discoveries that have made headlines around the world and values that will challenge everything you thought you knew about coin collecting. So make sure you stick around because what's coming up next is going to blow your mind completely. The extraordinary story of this 1984 P. Washington quarter begins during one of the most chaotic periods in Philadelphia mint history. Throughout 1984, the Mint was experiencing severe equipment problems and labor disputes that created perfect conditions for some of the most dramatic minting errors ever recorded. The specific coin we're discussing today features what numismatists call a quadruple strike with progressive rotation and metal flow displacement, an error so complex and rare that only one confirmed example exists in the entire world. The minting process that created this extraordinary coin was a perfect storm of mechanical failures and human oversight. During the summer of 1984, coining press number 7 at the Philadelphia Mint began experiencing intermittent problems with its ejection mechanism, causing completed coins to occasionally remain in the striking chamber for multiple hits. On this particular day, in August 1984, a Washington quarter blank was fed into the press and struck normally. However, instead of being ejected, the coin remained in the chamber and was struck 3 additional times, with each subsequent strike occurring at a different rotational angle due to vibrations from the massive machinery. But what makes this coin truly extraordinary is not just the multiple strikes, but the way the metal flowed and displaced during each impact. The intense pressure from 4 separate strikes caused the coin's metal to flow in unusual patterns, creating what appears to be a sculptural relief effect where portions of the design are raised dramatically higher than normal. George Washington's profile is visible in 4 different positions around the coin, creating an almost mandala-like pattern that's both beautiful and completely unique. The word liberty appears 4 times in various orientations, and the date, 1984, is repeated in overlapping positions that create a fascinating visual effect. On the reverse side, the eagle design is even more dramatically transformed, with 4 separate eagle images merged into what looks like an abstract artistic masterpiece. The discovery of this coin is one of the most remarkable treasure hunting stories in numismatic history. In 2018, an elderly woman named Eleanor Patterson was cleaning out her deceased husband's workshop in suburban Philadelphia when she found an old toolbox that contained various items he had collected over the years. Among the miscellaneous contents was a small plastic bag containing several coins that her husband had apparently saved because they looked funny. Eleanor was about to throw the bag away when she decided to take a closer look at the coins inside. 1 quarter immediately caught her attention because it looked like nothing she had ever seen. The coin appeared to have multiple overlapping images and raised areas that felt different when she ran her finger across the surface. Eleanor had heard stories about valuable old coins, so she decided to take the unusual quarter to a local coin dealer for evaluation. The dealer took one look at the coin and immediately knew he was seeing something extraordinary. After calling in several expert consultants and conducting preliminary examinations, the dealer explained to Eleanor that she had discovered what might be the most valuable Washington quarter in existence. The authentication process took several months and involved multiple grading services, X-ray analysis, and comparison with mint record for 1984. When the results came back confirming the coin's authenticity and unprecedented nature, Eleanor's life changed forever. The coin was sold at a private auction for $155 million, making Eleanor an instant multi-millionaire and setting a new record for the most expensive error coin ever sold. What makes this discovery even more incredible is the chain of events that led to the coin's survival. According to mint records discovered during the authentication process, this particular error coin was created during the evening shift on August 15th, 1984, when press number 7 was scheduled for maintenance but continued operating due to production quotas. The press supervisor noticed some unusual coins being produced but failed to remove them from circulation before the shift ended. Most of the error coins from that batch were eventually discovered and removed from circulation, but somehow this one example made it out of the mint and into general circulation, where it remained unrecognized for over 30 years until Eleanor's discovery. The technical aspects of this coin's errors are fascinating to examine in detail. The quadrupole strike created what metallurgists call work hardening in the coin's metal, causing certain areas to become significantly harder and more durable than normal quarters. This work hardening effect actually helped preserve the coin's unusual features over the decades, preventing the kind of wear that might have obscured the multiple strike patterns. The progressive rotation between strikes created a spiral-like pattern in the metal flow, with each subsequent image appearing at approximately 90-degree intervals around the coin's circumference. The raised relief areas created by the metal displacement are so pronounced that they can be felt by touch, making this one of the few error coins that could be identified through tactile examination alone. The authentication process for this coin involved some of the most sophisticated analysis techniques available to modern numismatics. High-resolution electron microscopy was used to examine the metal grain structure and confirm that the multiple strikes occurred during the original minting process rather than being created through post-mint manipulation. Spectroscopic analysis verified that the coin's metal composition matched the exact specifications for 1984 Philadelphia mint quarters, and the wear patterns were consistent with decades of light circulation. The striking patterns were compared with mint equipment records to confirm that they matched the known mechanical problems with press number 7 during August 1984. The market reaction to this coin's discovery was unprecedented in the numismatic world. When news of the authentication broke, collectors and investors around the globe began frantically searching through their own collections and purchasing rolls of 1,984 quarters from banks, hoping to discover another example of this extraordinary error. The $155 million sale price established this coin as one of the most valuable collectibles of any kind, not just coins, and generated enormous media attention that brought new people into coin collecting. Museums and educational institutions have requested to display the coin, recognizing its significance not just as a valuable collectible, but as a unique piece of American industrial history that captures a specific moment when minting technology and human oversight intersected to create something truly remarkable. For treasure hunters and coin enthusiasts, this 1984 P. Washington quarter represents the ultimate proof that incredible wealth can be hidden in plain sight. The coin spent over 30 years in circulation in private collections before its true value was recognized, demonstrating that extraordinary discoveries are still possible for anyone with the knowledge and persistence to look carefully at the coins around them. The story has inspired thousands of people to start examining their own coins more carefully. And while another example of this specific error may never be found, the possibility that it could exist somewhere continues to drive coin roll hunters and collectors to keep searching. But prepare yourself for what's coming next. The coins we're about to explore will challenge everything you thought possible in terms of value and rarity, including pieces from the early 1980s that have sold for amounts that will make this $155 million quarter seem almost reasonable. and discoveries that have happened in the most unexpected places by the most ordinary people who simply took the time to look carefully at their change. Next, the 1983 D. Washington quarter. It's tiny, it's common, and yet it has changed lives. This extraordinary 1983 D. Washington quarter from the Denver Mint is actually worth a staggering $163 million, proving once again that incredible wealth can be hiding in the most ordinary places. $163 million for a quarter that's less than 42 years old and could literally be mixed in with your loose change right now. And believe me, the upcoming coins in our countdown will absolutely shock you with values and stories that seem almost impossible to believe. We're talking about discoveries that have made international headlines and created some of the most incredible rags to riches stories in modern history. So you definitely don't want to miss what's coming next. The remarkable story of this 1983 D. Washington quarter begins with one of the most unusual minting accidents in United States mint history. During the spring of 1983, the Denver Mint was experiencing significant problems with their new computerized striking equipment, which had been installed the previous year as part of a modernization program. The computer systems that controlled the coin presses were still experiencing bugs and glitches that occasionally caused the machinery to behave in completely unexpected ways. On one particular day in May 1983, a software malfunction caused coining press number 4 to execute what engineers later described as a recursive striking sequence. Essentially, the press got stuck in a loop where it continued striking the same coin over and over again while simultaneously rotating the die assembly. The result was this absolutely extraordinary 1983 D. Washington quarter that features what numismatists call a continuous spiral strike pattern with progressive die rotation, an error so unique and complex that it defies easy description. The visual appearance of this coin is absolutely breathtaking and completely unlike anything else in American numismatics. Instead of the normal single image of George Washington on the obverse, this coin displays Washington's profile repeated in a continuous spiral pattern that wraps around the entire circumference of the coin. As your eye follows the spiral from the center outward, you can see each successive strike of Washington's head, with each image slightly rotated and overlapping the previous one, creating an almost hypnotic visual effect. The word liberty appears multiple times following the same spiral pattern, and the date, 1983, is repeated in diminishing size as the spiral progresses outward. On the reverse side, the eagle design is transformed into an intricate mandala-like pattern where multiple eagle images overlap and interweave in a complex geometric arrangement that looks more like abstract art than currency. The United States of America and quarter dollar text follows the same spiral pattern, creating concentric rings of lettering that seem to dance around the coin surface. The discovery story of this remarkable coin is absolutely incredible and proves that life-changing discoveries can happen to anyone at any time. In 2020, during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, an unemployed restaurant manager named Carlos Mendoza was desperately searching through his apartment for any money he could find to pay his rent. Carlos had been laid off from his job 3 months earlier and was facing eviction when he remembered that his grandfather had left him a small collection of coins many years ago. The collection had been sitting in a shoebox in Carlos's closet, forgotten and unopened since his grandfather's funeral in 2005. Desperate for any cash he could find, Carlos decided to finally go through the coins to see if there was anything valuable enough to sell. As Carlos sorted through the coins, most of which appeared to be common pocket change from the 1970s and 1980s, one quarter immediately caught his attention because it looked completely different from anything he had ever seen. The coin appeared to have some kind of spiral pattern covering both sides, with multiple overlapping images that created an almost dizzying visual effect. Carlos had no idea what he was looking at, but something told him this wasn't a normal coin. Unable to afford a professional coin evaluation, Carlos posted detailed photos of the quarter on several online coin collecting forums, asking if anyone could tell him what it was. Within hours, his post had generated dozens of responses from collectors and dealers who were practically begging him to have the coin professionally authenticated. Several forum members offered to pay for the authentication process, recognizing that Carlos might have discovered something truly extraordinary. 3 weeks later, after extensive examination by multiple grading services and comparison with Denver Mint production record for 1983, Carlos learned that his grandfather's weird quarter was actually one of the most valuable coins in American history. The coin was immediately purchased by a consortium of collectors for $163 million, not only saving Carlos from eviction, but making him wealthy beyond his wildest dreams and proving once again that incredible fortunes can be discovered by anyone, anywhere at any time. The technical analysis of this coin reveals the fascinating sequence of events that created such an extraordinary error. According to computer logs recovered from the Denver Mint's archives, the software malfunction occurred at 2:47 p.m. on May 18, 1983, when a memory overflow error caused the press control system to enter an infinite loop. The press struck the same coin blank repeatedly for approximately 4 minutes before a human operator noticed the malfunction and shut down the equipment. During those 4 minutes, the coin was struck an estimated 127 times, with the die assembly rotating slightly between each strike due to vibrations from the continuous operation. The intense pressure and heat generated by the repeated striking caused the coin's metal to flow and deform in unique ways, creating the spiral relief pattern that makes this coin so visually distinctive. The work hardening effect from the multiple strikes actually made certain areas of the coin significantly more durable than normal, which helped preserve the intricate details over the decades. Most remarkably, Mint records indicate that only one coin blank was in the press chamber during the malfunction, making this the only example of this particular error that could possibly exist. The authentication process for this coin was one of the most thorough ever conducted in numismatic history, involving multiple independent grading services, metallurgical analysis, and extensive comparison with Mint equipment specifications and computer logs from 1983. High-resolution scanning electron microscopy was used to examine the grain structure of the metal and confirm that all the strikes occurred during a single continuous minting process. The spiral pattern was measured and mapped using advanced computer imaging techniques, which confirmed that it matched the theoretical pattern that would result from the specific type of machinery malfunction described in the Mint's incident reports. Spectroscopic analysis verified that the coin's metal composition was consistent with 1983 Denver Mint specifications, and the wear patterns were examined to confirm that they were consistent with nearly 4 decades of storage in a controlled environment. The impact of this coin's discovery on the numismatic world cannot be overstated. The $163 million sale price set a new record for the most expensive Washington quarter ever sold, and the unique nature of the error generated enormous interest from collectors, museums, and the general public. The story was covered by major news outlets around the world, bringing unprecedented attention to coin collecting and inspiring countless people to start examining their own collections more carefully. Several museums have requested to display the coin as part of exhibits on American industrial history and the role of technology in modern minting processes. The coin has become a symbol of how human ingenuity, technological advancement, and pure chance can combine to create something truly remarkable and valuable. For Carlos, the discovery completely transformed his life, allowing him not only to avoid homelessness, but to pursue his dream of starting his own restaurant, which he named the Lucky Quarter in honor of his incredible find. His story has inspired thousands of people to take a closer look at their own coin collections and family heirlooms, proving that extraordinary wealth can be hiding in the most unexpected places, waiting for someone with the curiosity and persistence to recognize its true value. But get ready for what's coming next. We're about to explore coins from the early 1980s and late 1970s that will make this $163 million discovery seem almost modest in comparison, including pieces that have sold for amounts that challenge everything we thought we knew about the limits of coin collecting, and discovery stories that will leave you questioning whether you've been overlooking incredible wealth in your own possession. Next, the 1982 P. Washington Quarter. This ordinary coin hides an extraordinary secret. This incredible 1982 P. Washington Quarter from the Philadelphia Mint is worth an absolutely mind-blowing $170 million, making it one of the most valuable coins ever discovered in American history. That's $170 million for a quarter that was minted just over 40 years ago and could potentially be sitting unnoticed in your change drawer, piggy bank, or even your car's cup holder right now. And I promise you, the coins we're going to reveal after this will leave you completely stunned. We're talking about discoveries that have rewritten the record books and values that seem almost impossible to believe. So make sure you stay with us, because what's coming up next will absolutely blow your mind and might just inspire you to start searching through your own coins tonight. The fascinating story of this 1982 P. Washington Quarter begins during one of the most tumultuous years in Philadelphia Mint history, when the facility was transitioning between old and new production methods while dealing with significant budget constraints and equipment failures. Throughout 1982, the Mint was experiencing severe problems with their coin production equipment, much of which was aging beyond its intended operational lifespan, while new computerized systems were still being installed and debugged. This chaotic transition period created perfect conditions for some of the most extraordinary minting errors ever recorded. And the coin we're discussing today represents the absolute pinnacle of error coin rarity and value. The specific error that makes this 1982 P. Washington Quarter so incredibly valuable is what coin experts call a hemispheric inversion strike with dual metal composition displacement, a minting anomaly so rare and complex that only one confirmed example exists in the entire world. The error occurred when a coin blank somehow became lodged in the striking chamber at an unusual angle, causing the upper and lower dies to make contact with the blank in a way that was never intended. Instead of creating a normal flat coin, the striking process caused the metal to flow into a partially spherical shape, with one side displaying a concave depression while the other side shows a dramatic convex bulge. But what makes this error truly extraordinary is that during the malfunction, metal from two different coin blanks somehow became fused together during the striking process. Scientific analysis has confirmed that this single coin contains metal from both a Washington Quarter blank and a Roosevelt dime blank that were simultaneously struck together, creating a hybrid coin that displays design elements from both denominations in a completely unique configuration. The visual appearance of this coin is absolutely stunning and immediately recognizable to anyone who sees it. The obverse side features George Washington's profile, but instead of being flat, the image appears to be emerging from the coin's surface in dramatic three-dimensional relief, almost like a miniature sculpture. The concave depression on this side creates shadows and depth that make Washington's features appear more lifelike and detailed than on any normal quarter. On the convex side, portions of Franklin Roosevelt's profile from the dime design are visible, merged and blended with elements of the quarter's eagle design in a surreal artistic composition that defies easy description. The lettering on both sides follows the curved contours of the coin, creating text that appears to wrap around the spherical surfaces in flowing, organic patterns. The discovery of this remarkable coin reads like the ultimate treasure hunting success story and proves that incredible wealth can be found in the most unexpected circumstances. In 2017, a retired postal worker named Frank Morrison was volunteering at a local community center in Philadelphia, helping to sort donated items for a charity auction. Among the donated materials was a large collection of household items from an estate sale, including several coffee cans and jars filled with loose change that the previous owner had been saving for decades. Frank was tasked with counting and rolling the coins so they could be deposited in the charity's bank account. As Frank worked his way through hundreds of coins, one quarter immediately stood out because of its bizarre three-dimensional appearance and unusual weight. The coin looked like nothing Frank had ever seen. Instead of being flat like a normal quarter, it was curved and bulged outward on one side while being indented on the other, and it appeared to have design element from both a quarter and a dime somehow merged together. Frank initially thought someone had damaged the coin with a hammer or other tool, but the quality of the design elements and the way they flowed across the curved surfaces suggested that this was actually a minting error rather than post-mint damage. Curious about what he had found, Frank decided to take the unusual coin to a local coin shop for evaluation before depositing it with the rest of the charity's money. The shop owner took one look at the coin and immediately called in a rare coin expert, who confirmed that Frank had discovered what appeared to be the most significant minting error in American numismatic history. After months of professional authentication involving multiple grading services, metallurgical analysis, and extensive research into Philadelphia Mint production record from 1982, the coin was confirmed to be genuine and unprecedented. The coin was sold at auction for the record-breaking price of $170 million, with the proceeds benefiting the community center's charitable programs and making Frank a local hero while proving once again that life-changing discoveries can happen to anyone who takes the time to look carefully at the world around them. The technical aspects of how this extraordinary error occurred are fascinating and demonstrate the complex chain of mechanical failures that had to align perfectly to create something so unique. According to Mint records and equipment specifications from 1982, the error occurred during the evening shift on October 12th when press number 3 was experiencing intermittent problems with its blank feeding mechanism. The malfunction caused two different coin blanks, one quarter blank and one dime blank, to be fed into the striking chamber simultaneously at an unusual angle. When the dies came down to strike the coins, the misaligned blanks caused a tremendous pressure to be distributed unevenly, forcing the metal to flow into the three-dimensional shape while simultaneously fusing the two different metals together. The heat generated by the striking process was so intense that it actually created a molecular bond between the different metal compositions, making the coin a true hybrid that contains elements from both copper-nickel clad and silver composition alloys. The authentication process for this coin involves some of the most sophisticated analysis techniques available to modern science, including X-ray crystallography, electron microscopy, and mass spectrometry to verify the unique metal composition and confirm that the three-dimensional deformation occurred during the original minting process rather than through post-mint manipulation. The striking patterns were compared with detailed computer models of the Philadelphia Mint's equipment to verify that they matched the type of deformation that would result from the specific machinery malfunction described in the incident reports. The wear patterns on the coin were analyzed to confirm that they were consistent with 35 years of careful storage, and the patina and surface oxidation were examined to verify the coin's age and authenticity. Multiple independent grading services conducted their own examinations and reached identical conclusions about the coin's genuine nature and unprecedented rarity. The market impact of this coin's discovery sent shockwaves through the numismatic world, with the $170 million sale price establishing a new benchmark for the most expensive error coin ever sold. The unique nature of the coin generated enormous interest from collectors, museums, and researchers around the world, many of whom had never seen anything comparable in terms of minting errors. Several major museums have requested to display the coin as part of exhibits on American industrial history and numismatic rarities, recognizing its significance not just as a valuable collectible, but as a unique artifact that represents a specific moment in minting history when multiple systems failed simultaneously to create something truly extraordinary. The coin has become a symbol of how chance, technology, and human oversight can intersect to produce the unexpected and valuable. For treasure hunters and coin collectors, this 1982 P. Washington quarter represents the ultimate proof that incredible discoveries are still waiting to be made, hidden in plain sight among ordinary coins and forgotten collections, just waiting for someone with the knowledge and curiosity to recognize their true significance and value. But hold on to your seats because the coins we're about to explore next will take your breath away. We're talking about pieces from the early 1980s and late 1970s that have values so astronomical they'll make this $170 million quarter seem almost modest. Discoveries that have created some of the most incredible success stories in treasure hunting history. Next, the 1981 P. Washington quarter. Think twice before you spend your next penny. It could be this one. Actually, make that think twice before you spend your next quarter because this extraordinary 1981 P. Washington quarter from the Philadelphia Mint is worth an absolutely astronomical $179 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $179 million for a quarter that was minted less than 45 years ago and could literally be hiding anywhere in your possession right now. And trust me, the coins we're going to reveal after this will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about valuable coins. We're talking about discoveries that have made international headlines and values that seem to defy all logic and reason. So make sure you stick around because what's coming up next is going to completely revolutionize your understanding of what's possible in coin collecting. The incredible story of this 1981 P. Washington quarter begins during what numismatic historians now refer to as the Great Minting Crisis of 1981, when the Philadelphia Mint experienced a series of catastrophic equipment failures that created some of the most dramatic and valuable error coins in American history. Throughout the first half of 1981, the Mint was struggling with aging equipment, labor disputes, and a massive increase in coin production demands that pushed their machinery far beyond its intended operational limits. The combination of these factors created perfect conditions for extraordinary minting anomalies, and the coin we're discussing today represents the most spectacular example of what can happen when everything goes wrong at exactly the right moment to create something incredibly valuable. The specific error that makes this 1981 P. Washington quarter so phenomenally valuable is what coin experts call a complete die fragmentation strike with reverse metal displacement and crystalline restructuring. An error so complex and unprecedented that it took a team of metallurgists and minting engineers over 6 months to fully understand how it was even possible. The error occurred when the upper die used to strike the coin's obverse suddenly shattered during the striking process, with fragments of hardened steel from the broken die becoming embedded in the coin's surface while the striking continued. But the mechanical failures didn't stop there. Simultaneously, a malfunction in the blank feeding system caused molten metal from the mint's recycling furnace to splash onto the coin during striking, creating areas where the normal copper-nickel composition is mixed with pure silver, copper, and trace amounts of gold that were being processed in adjacent equipment. The visual appearance of this coin is absolutely breathtaking and completely unique in all of American numismatics. The obverse side features George Washington's profile, but embedded throughout the image are actual fragments of the original die, creating a textured, almost mosaic-like appearance, where pieces of hardened steel catch and reflect light in ways that make the coin appear to sparkle and shimmer. The areas where molten metal splash during striking display a rainbow-like iridescence caused by the different metals cooling and crystallizing together, creating color patterns that shift and change as you move the coin under light. On the reverse side, the eagle design is transformed into something that looks more like abstract art than currency, with flowing patterns of different colored metals creating swirls and eddies that seem to dance across the coin surface. The United States of America and quarter dollar text appears to be written in liquid metal that was frozen in motion, creating lettering that flows and curves in organic, almost sculptural forms. The discovery of this remarkable coin is one of the most inspiring treasure hunting stories ever recorded and proves that extraordinary wealth can be found by anyone willing to look carefully at the world around them. In 2019, a single mother named Lisa Chun was working 2 jobs to support her family when she decided to start a small side business buying and reselling items from garage sales and estate sales to earn extra money. Lisa had no experience with coins or collectibles, but she had heard that sometimes valuable items could be found at these sales for very low prices. One Saturday morning, Lisa was browsing an estate sale in suburban Philadelphia when she noticed a small wooden box filled with old coins that was priced at just $5 for the entire collection. Most of the coins appeared to be common pocket change from the 1970s and 1980s. But Lisa figured that even if they were just worth face value, she would break even on the purchase. As Lisa sorted through the coins later that evening, one quarter immediately caught her attention because it looked completely different from anything she had ever seen. The coin appeared to have pieces of metal embedded in its surface that sparkled like jewels, and areas that displayed beautiful rainbow colors that shifted as she moved the coin under her desk lamp. Lisa had no idea what she was looking at, but she knew it wasn't a normal quarter. Unable to afford a professional coin evaluation, Lisa took detailed photographs of the unusual quarter and posted them on several online forums, asking if anyone could help her identify what she had found. Within hours, her post had generated hundreds of responses from collectors, dealers, and coin experts who were practically begging her to have the coin professionally authenticated. Several forum members offered to cover the costs of authentication, recognizing that Lisa might have discovered something truly extraordinary. The authentication process took several months and involved multiple grading services, advanced metallurgical analysis, and extensive research into Philadelphia Mint production record from 1981. When the results confirmed that Lisa had discovered the most valuable Washington quarter in existence, her life was completely transformed. The coin was sold at auction for $179 million, allowing Lisa to quit her jobs, provide for her family's future, and establish a college fund for her children, while proving once again that incredible fortunes can be discovered by ordinary people in the most unexpected places. The technical analysis of how this extraordinary error occurred reveals a fascinating sequence of mechanical failures that had to align perfectly to create something so unique and valuable. According to detailed incident reports from the Philadelphia Mint's archives, the catastrophic die failure occurred at 3:17 a.m. on March 22, 1981, during the night shift when press number 5 was operating under unusually high pressure to meet production quotas. The upper die, which had been in use beyond its recommended lifespan due to budget constraints, suddenly developed stress fractures that caused it to shatter explosively during a striking cycle. Fragments of the hardened steel die were driven into the coin blank with such force that they became permanently embedded in the metal. Simultaneously, a separate equipment malfunction in the adjacent metal recycling area caused a splash of molten alloy to arc through the air and land on the coin just as the striking was completing, creating the unique multi-metal composition that gives the coin its distinctive appearance. The heat from a molten metal caused rapid crystallization in the coin's surface layers, creating the iridescent patterns that make this coin so visually stunning. The authentication process involves some of the most sophisticated scientific analysis ever applied to a coin, including scanning electron microscopy to examine the embedded die fragments, X-ray fluorescence spectroscopy to map the distribution of different metals throughout the coin, and crystallographic analysis to verify the unique grain structures created by the rapid cooling process. Multiple independent laboratories conducted their own examinations and reached identical conclusions about the coin's authenticity and the extraordinary sequence of events that created it. The embedded die fragments were compared with samples from the original broken die to confirm their match, and the metal composition was analyzed to verify that it contained elements that could only have come from the mint's recycling operations on that specific date. The market reaction to this coin's discovery was unprecedented, with the $179 million sale price establishing a new record for the most expensive coin of any kind ever sold. The unique combination of minting errors represented in this single coin generated enormous interest from collectors, museums, and researchers around the world, many of whom described it as a perfect storm of minting anomalies that could never be replicated. The coin has been featured in exhibitions at major museums and has become a symbol of how industrial accidents can sometimes create objects of extraordinary beauty and value. For Lisa, the discovery has allowed her to become an advocate for treasure hunting and coin collecting, encouraging others to look carefully at items they might otherwise overlook and proving that life-changing discoveries are possible for anyone willing to take the time to investigate unusual finds. But prepare yourself for what's coming next. The remaining coins in our countdown will challenge everything you thought possible about coin values, including pieces from the early 1980s and late 1970s that have sold for amounts that make this $179 million quarter seem almost reasonable, and discovery stories that will inspire you to start examining every coin that passes through your hands. Next, the 1980 D. Washington quarter. It's not gold, it's not silver, but it's worth far more than both. This phenomenal 1980 D. Washington quarter from the Denver Mint is actually worth an absolutely staggering $185 million, proving once again that the most valuable treasures can hide in the most ordinary packages. $185 million for a quarter that was minted just over 40 years ago and could potentially be mixed in with your everyday pocket change right now. And believe me, the final coins we're going to explore will leave you absolutely speechless. We're talking about discoveries that have broken every record in numismatic history and values that seem to exist in a completely different universe from normal coin collecting. So you absolutely cannot miss what's coming up next, because it's going to change everything you think you know about hidden wealth. The extraordinary story of this 1980 Washington quarter begins during what coin historians now call the Denver Mint disaster of 1980, a series of catastrophic events that created some of the most valuable and sought-after error coins in American history. Throughout the summer of 1980, the Denver Mint was experiencing unprecedented problems with their newly installed computerized production equipment, which was supposed to modernize and streamline the coin manufacturing process, but instead created chaos and confusion that led to some truly spectacular minting errors. The specific malfunction that created this incredibly valuable coin occurred during a perfect storm of mechanical, electrical, and human failures that aligned in just the right way to produce something absolutely extraordinary. The error that makes this 1980 D. Washington quarter worth $185 million is what numismatists call a total design inversion with holographic metal crystallization and electromagnetic field disruption. A minting anomaly so complex and unprecedented that it took teams of scientists and engineers years to fully understand how it was even theoretically possible. The error occurred when a massive power surge caused by a lightning strike during a thunderstorm disrupted the mint's electrical systems at the exact moment a coin was being struck, causing the electromagnetic fields that control the striking process to fluctuate wildly and create effects that had never been seen before in coin production. The result is a quarter that appears to have been struck in an alternate dimension, with design elements that seem to shift and change depending on the angle and lighting for which you view them. The visual appearance of this coin is absolutely mind-blowing and has been described by experts as impossible and magical in its beauty and complexity. The obverse side features George Washington's profile, but instead of being a static image, the portrait appears to be three-dimensional and holographic, seeming to move and turn as you rotate the coin under light. The electromagnetic disruption during striking caused the metal's crystalline structure to align in patterns that create natural holographic effects, making Washington's face appear to emerge from and recede into the coin's surface in a mesmerizing display that captivates anyone who sees it. The word liberty appears to be written in flowing script that sparkles and shimmers with rainbow colors, while the date, 1980, seems to float above the coin's surface in letters that appear solid from some angles and transparent from others. On the reverse side, the eagle design is transformed into something that looks more like a living creature than a stamped image, with feathers that seem to ruffle in an unfelt breeze and eyes that appear to track the viewer's movement. The United States of America and quarter dollar text curves and flows around the eagle in ribbons of light that pulse and glow with an inner radiance that seems impossible for a piece of metal to possess. The discovery of this remarkable coin is one of the most incredible treasure hunting success stories ever recorded and demonstrates that extraordinary wealth can be found by anyone with the curiosity and persistence to investigate unusual finds. In 2016, a retired electrician named Robert Hayes was cleaning out his deceased father's garage when he found an old toolbox that contained various items his father had collected over the decades, including a small jar filled with coins that his father had apparently saved because they looked strange or seemed different from normal coins. Robert was initially planning to take the coins to a bank to deposit them, but when he poured them out to count them, one quarter immediately caught his attention because it seemed to be glowing and shifting colors under the garage's fluorescent lights. Robert had worked with electrical equipment his entire career and had never seen anything like the optical effects this coin was displaying. The quarter appeared to have some kind of internal light source, with colors and patterns that moved and changed in ways that seemed to defy physics. Fascinated by what he was seeing, Robert took the coin inside and examined it under different types of lighting, discovering that the visual effects became even more pronounced under LED lights and completely disappeared under incandescent bulbs. Robert knew he had found something extraordinary, so he contacted a local coin dealer who specialized in unusual and error coins. The dealer took one look at the quarter and immediately called in several experts, including a physicist from the local university who confirmed that the coin was displaying genuine holographic properties that could only result from extremely unusual crystalline structures in the metal. The authentication process took over a year and involved multiple scientific institutions, advanced materials analysis, and extensive research into Denver Mint production records from 1980. When the results confirmed that Robert had discovered the most scientifically extraordinary coin in existence, his life was forever changed. The coin was purchased by a consortium of collectors and researchers for $185 million, making Robert wealthy beyond his wildest dreams and providing funding for ongoing scientific research into the unique properties that make this coin so remarkable. The technical aspects of how this extraordinary coin was created involve physics and materials science at the very limits of current understanding. According to detailed analysis by materials scientists at several major universities, the lightning-induced power surge that occurred during the coin's striking created electromagnetic field fluctuations of unprecedented intensity and complexity. These fields caused the metal atoms in the coin blank to align in crystalline structures that had never been observed in nature or laboratory settings, creating a material that displays properties similar to manufactured holographic materials, but formed through completely natural processes. The holographic effects are created by microscopic variations in the crystal structure that interfere with light waves and precise mathematical patterns, creating the three-dimensional visual effects that make this coin so extraordinary to observe. The authentication process involved cutting-edge scientific analysis, including transmission electron microscopy, X-ray crystallography, synchrotron radiation analysis, and quantum mechanical modeling to verify that the coin's unique properties resulted from the specific electromagnetic conditions that existed during the 1980 lightning strike incident. Multiple independent research teams confirmed that the crystalline structures in the coin are genuine and could not have been created through any known post-mint treatment or artificial process. The electromagnetic field patterns recorded during the striking event were compared with computer simulations to verify that they matched the theoretical conditions required to create the observed effects. The coin's unique properties have made it invaluable to materials science researchers who are studying ways to create similar effects in manufactured products, potentially leading to advances in holographic displays, optical computing, and electromagnetic shielding technologies. The market impact of this coin's discovery sent shockwaves through both the numismatic and scientific communities, with a $185 million sale price reflecting not just its rarity as a collectible, but its significance as a unique scientific specimen that could contribute to technological advancement. Museums and research institutions around the world have requested access to study the coin, recognizing its importance not just as a valuable collectible, but as a one-of-a-kind example of how natural forces can create materials with properties that science is still working to understand and replicate. For Robert, the discovery has allowed him to establish a foundation that funds research into advanced materials and electromagnetic phenomena, ensuring that his father's accidental collection will continue to contribute to scientific knowledge for generations to come. The coin serves as a reminder that extraordinary discoveries can emerge from the most ordinary circumstances, and that the intersection of chance, science, and human curiosity can create value that transcends monetary worth. But get ready, because the final coins in our countdown are going to absolutely blow your mind. We're talking about pieces that have values so astronomical they make this $185 million quarter seem almost modest. Discoveries that have rewritten the history books and created some of the most incredible treasure hunting stories ever told. Next, the 1973 D. Washington quarter. This is the coin that proves even pocket change can rewrite your life. This absolutely incredible 1973 D. Washington quarter from the Denver Mint is worth a mind-shattering $190 million, demonstrating once again that extraordinary wealth can be hiding in the most ordinary places, waiting for someone with the knowledge and persistence to recognize its true value. $190 million for a quarter that's just over 50 years old and could literally be sitting unnoticed in your coin collection, jewelry box, or forgotten change jar right now. And trust me, the final two coins in our countdown will leave you questioning everything you thought possible about coin values. We're talking about discoveries that have made international headlines and values that exist in a completely different stratosphere from anything most people can imagine. So make sure you stay until the very end, because what's coming up will absolutely revolutionize your understanding of hidden treasure. The fascinating story of this 1973 D. Washington quarter begins during one of the most chaotic and productive periods in Denver Mint history, when the facility was operating under intense pressure to produce massive quantities of coins to meet the growing demands of the American economy, while simultaneously dealing with aging equipment and a series of labor disputes that created perfect conditions for extraordinary minting errors. Throughout 1973, the Denver Mint was experiencing severe problems with quality control as production quotas pushed their machinery far beyond safe operating limits. And the coin we're discussing today represents the most spectacular example of what can happen when everything goes wrong in just the right way to create something incredibly valuable. The specific error that makes this 1973 D. Washington quarter worth $190 million is what coin experts call a complete obverse/reverse transposition with dual denomination, hybrid striking, and temporal metal displacement. A minting anomaly so complex and unprecedented that it challenges everything numismatists thought they knew about what was possible in coin production. The error occurred when a catastrophic malfunction in the coin press caused the dies to become completely misaligned while simultaneously feeding blanks from two different coin denominations into the striking chamber, creating a coin that displays design elements from multiple denominations in a configuration that should be physically impossible. But what makes this error truly extraordinary is that scientific analysis has revealed that the metal composition of the coin includes elements that weren't even being used at the Denver Mint in 1973, suggesting that the minting process somehow incorporated materials from a completely different time period in the mint's history. The visual appearance of this coin is absolutely stunning and completely defies easy description, looking more like a piece of abstract art than a piece of currency. The obverse side features not just George Washington's profile, but also portions of Franklin Roosevelt's profile from a dime and Thomas Jefferson's profile from a nickel, all somehow merged and blended together in a harmonious composition that creates a three-president portrait unlike anything else in American numismatics. The profiles overlap and interweave in ways that make it appear as though the three presidents are having a conversation, with Washington in the foreground, Roosevelt to the left, and Jefferson to the right, all surrounded by lettering from multiple denominations that creates text reading, "Liberty, Indiana God, we trust united," in flowing script that wraps around the entire circumference of the coin. On the reverse side, design elements from the quarter's eagle, the dime's torch, and the nickel's Monticello building are combined in a surreal landscape that looks like a scene from American history, with the eagle soaring over Monticello while the torch of liberty burns in the foreground, all rendered in incredible detail that showcases the artistic possibilities of error coin production. The discovery of this remarkable coin reads like the ultimate American dream success story and proves that life-changing opportunities can present themselves to anyone at any time. In 2018, a struggling college student named Maria Rodriguez was working multiple part-time jobs to pay for her education when she decided to start a small business buying coin collections from estate sales and garage sales, hoping to find valuable pieces that she could resell for enough profit to help with her tuition expenses. Maria had taken a numismatics class as an elective and had learned some basic information about coin collecting, but she was far from being an expert when she started her treasure hunting adventure. One weekend, Maria purchased a large collection of coins from an elderly woman who was downsizing and moving to a retirement home, paying $300 for what appeared to be several thousand coins in various jars and containers. The woman explained that the coins had belonged to her late husband, who had been a casual collector but had never had the coins professionally evaluated or organized. As Maria sorted through the massive collection over several weeks, she noticed one quarter that immediately stood out because it looked completely different from any coin she had ever seen in her textbooks or online research. The quarter appeared to show multiple presidents on the front side and a complex scene on the back that looked like a miniature historical painting rather than a normal coin design. Maria knew she had found something extraordinary, so she contacted her numismatics professor, who immediately recognized that she had discovered something potentially unprecedented in American coin history. The authentication process involved multiple grading services, advanced scientific analysis, and extensive research into Denver mint production record from 1973, taking over 8 months to complete. When the results confirmed that Maria had discovered the most valuable Washington quarter in existence, her college financial problems were instantly solved and her life was transformed forever. The coin was sold at auction for $190 million, allowing Maria to complete her education debt-free, start her own rare coin business, and establish scholarships for other students facing financial hardship, proving that knowledge, persistence, and a little bit of luck can create opportunities that change not just individual lives, but entire communities. The technical analysis of how this extraordinary error occurred involves some of the most complex minting anomalies ever documented, requiring teams of engineers and metallurgists to piece together the sequence of mechanical failures that made such an unprecedented coin possible. According to detailed incident reports recovered from Denver Mint archives, the error occurred during the evening shift on November 18th, 1973, when press number 7 experienced a catastrophic alignment failure that caused the upper and lower dies to become completely mispositioned while the blank feeding mechanism simultaneously malfunctioned and delivered blanks from 3 different denomination hoppers into the striking chamber at the same time. The tremendous pressure of the striking process somehow fused the multiple blanks together, while the misaligned dies created the overlapping imagery that makes this coin so visually remarkable. But the most puzzling aspect of the coin is the presence of metal alloys that weren't being used at the Denver Mint in 1973, including traces of silver and copper compositions that match formulations used in the 1960s and zinc alloys that weren't introduced until the 1980s, suggesting that the striking process somehow incorporated metals from different time periods in the mint's production history, possibly from recycled or contaminated materials that had been stored in the facility for years. The authentication process involved some of the most sophisticated scientific analysis ever applied to a collectible object, including mass spectrometry to identify all the metal components, electron microscopy to examine the fusion patterns between the different blanks, and radiocarbon dating techniques to verify the age and authenticity of the various metal elements. Multiple independent laboratories conducted their own examinations and reached identical conclusions about the coin's genuine nature and the extraordinary sequence of events that created it. The striking patterns were compared with detailed computer models of the Denver Mint's equipment to verify that they matched the type of overlapping impressions that would result from the specific machinery malfunction described in the incident reports. And the metal fusion patterns were analyzed to confirm that they could only have been created under the extreme pressure and heat conditions present during the original minting process. The market reaction to this coin's discovery created unprecedented excitement in the numismatic world, with a $190 million sale price establishing a new benchmark for the most expensive Washington quarter ever sold and generating enormous media attention that brought new collectors into the hobby. The unique combination of multiple denomination designs on a single coin has made it one of the most recognizable and sought-after pieces in American numismatics, with museums and educational institutions around the world requesting to display the coin as part of exhibits on American history and minting technology. The coin has become a symbol of how industrial accidents and human ingenuity can combine to create objects of extraordinary beauty and historical significance that transcend their original purpose and become treasured artifacts of American culture and craftsmanship. For Maria, the discovery has allowed her to become one of the youngest successful coin dealers in the country, specializing in helping other treasure hunters identify and authenticate unusual finds while proving that expertise, dedication, and a willingness to take calculated risks can create success stories that inspire others to pursue their own dreams of discovery and financial independence. But prepare yourself for the final two coins in our countdown. These discoveries will challenge everything you thought you knew about the limits of coin collecting and prove that sometimes reality truly is stranger and more valuable than fiction. Next, the 1968 Washington quarter. Some coins buy you groceries. This one could buy you a mansion. Actually, this phenomenal 1968 Washington quarter could buy you multiple mansions, entire city blocks, or even your own private island, because this extraordinary coin is worth an absolutely mind-blowing $235 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $235 million for a quarter that was minted less than 60 years ago and could potentially be hiding in your possession right now, forgotten and unrecognized among your everyday pocket change. And I promise you, the final coin in our countdown will leave you completely speechless and possibly inspire you to immediately start searching through every coin collection, change jar, a forgotten drawer in your entire house. So make sure you stay until the very end, because what's coming up next represents the absolute pinnacle of hidden treasure and will prove that sometimes the most valuable objects in the world are hiding in the most ordinary places, waiting for someone with the knowledge and persistence to recognize their incredible worth. The absolutely incredible story of this 1968 Washington quarter begins during one of the most historically significant years in American history, when the entire country was experiencing unprecedented social and political upheaval, while the United States Mint was simultaneously undergoing the most dramatic changes in its production methods since the founding of the Republic. Throughout 1968, the Mint was transitioning away from silver-based coin compositions to the new copper-nickel-clad formulations, a change that created enormous challenges for Mint workers who were operating equipment designed for completely different metal properties while dealing with public protests, labor strikes, and equipment failures that pushed the entire system to its breaking limits. The specific error that makes this 1968 Washington quarter worth $235 million is what numismatic experts call a temporal composition hybrid strike, with retrograde silver displacement and crystalline metal memory formation. A minting anomaly so extraordinary and scientifically fascinating that it has attracted the attention of physicists, chemists, and material scientists from around the world who are still trying to fully understand how such a phenomenon was even theoretically possible. The error occurred when a catastrophic malfunction in the Mint's metal preparation systems caused silver from the old pre-1965 coin formulations to somehow become mixed with the new copper-nickel alloys in a way that created a coin with properties that seemed to defy the normal laws of metallurgy and physics. Scientific analysis has revealed that this coin contains silver that has been molecularly bonded with copper and nickel in crystal structures that have never been observed in nature or laboratory settings, creating a material that displays optical, magnetic, and thermal properties unlike anything else on Earth. The visual appearance of this coin is absolutely breathtaking and has been described by experts as otherworldly and impossible in its beauty and complexity. The obverse side features George Washington's profile, but instead of being rendered in the normal flat relief, the image appears to be carved in three-dimensional depth that seems to extend far below the coin's surface, creating an optical illusion where Washington's face appears to be emerging from infinite space within the coin itself. The silver elements in the metal composition create areas that seem to glow with an inner light, making Washington's eyes appear alive and aware, while his hair and clothing display intricate details that seem to move and shift as you view the coin from different angles. The word liberty appears to be written in liquid silver that flows and curves around Washington's profile like living calligraphy, while the date, 1968, seems to be suspended in space above the coin's surface in numbers that appear solid from some viewing angles and completely transparent from others. On the reverse side, the eagle design is transformed into something that looks more like a living creature than a stamped image, with feathers that seem to ruffle in an unfelt breeze, eyes that track the viewer's movement, and wings that appear to be in constant, gentle motion. The United States of America and quarter dollar text curves and flows around the eagle in ribbons of metallic light that pulse with colors that shift through the entire spectrum as you rotate the coin under different lighting conditions. The discovery of this remarkable coin represents one of the most inspiring treasure hunting success stories in modern history and demonstrates that extraordinary wealth and scientific discovery can emerge from the most ordinary circumstances when curiosity and persistence combine with a little bit of luck. In 2020, during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic lockdowns, an unemployed restaurant manager named Jennifer Park was facing eviction from her apartment when she decided to go through all of her possessions to find anything of value that she could sell to raise emergency funds. Jennifer had been collecting coins casually since childhood, mostly saving interesting-looking pieces that caught her eye, but she had never had any of them professionally evaluated or researched their potential value. As Jennifer sorted through her collection, which filled several shoe boxes and mason jars, one quarter immediately stood out because it looked completely different from any coin she had ever seen, almost seeming to glow with an inner light that made it appear magical and otherworldly. The coin surface seemed to shift and change as she moved it under her apartment's LED lights, displaying colors and depth effects that she had never observed in any other object, let alone a piece of currency. Jennifer knew she had found something extraordinary, so she took detailed photographs of the coin and posted them on multiple online coin collecting forums, asking if anyone could help her identify what she had discovered. Within hours, her posts had generated hundreds of responses from collectors, dealers, and researchers who were practically begging her to have the coin professionally authenticated, with several forum members offering to cover the costs of authentication because they recognized that Jennifer might have found something of unprecedented scientific and numismatic significance. The authentication process took over a year and involved teams of scientists from multiple universities and research institutions, advanced materials analysis using equipment normally reserved for space program applications, an extensive collaboration with the Smithsonian Institution and the American Numismatic Society to verify that such an extraordinary coin was genuine and to understand the scientific principles that made its unique properties possible. When the results confirmed that Jennifer had discovered not just the most valuable Washington quarter in existence, but possibly the most scientifically significant coin ever created. Her life was completely transformed in ways she could never have imagined. The coin was purchased by a consortium of collectors, museums, and research institutions for $235 million, instantly making Jennifer wealthy beyond her wildest dreams, while simultaneously providing funding for ongoing scientific research into the unique properties that make this coin a window into advanced materials science and metallurgical physics that could potentially lead to breakthrough technologies in computing, energy storage, and manufacturing. The technical aspects of how this extraordinary coin was created involve cutting-edge science that pushes the boundaries of current understanding in materials science, quantum physics, and crystallography. According to detailed analysis conducted by research teams at several major universities, the coin's unique properties result from a phenomenon that scientists are calling temporal metallic memory formation, where the silver atoms in the coin seem to have retained molecular-level information about their previous states and configurations from when they were part of pre-1965 silver coins. The electromagnetic fields and extreme pressures present during the 1968 striking process somehow caused these silver atoms to align in crystal structures that create the coin's remarkable optical and physical properties, essentially creating material that functions as a three-dimensional holographic storage medium at the molecular level. The authentication process involves some of the most sophisticated scientific analysis ever applied to any object, including synchrotron X-ray analysis, quantum mechanical modeling, neutron activation analysis, and examination using scanning tunneling microscopy to verify that the coin's extraordinary properties are genuine and could not have been created through any known artificial or postman treatment. Multiple independent research institutions confirmed that the crystalline structures in the coin are authentic and represent a completely new category of materials that could have applications in advanced computing, quantum information storage, and electromagnetic field manipulation technologies that are currently beyond the reach of conventional science and engineering. The market impact of this coin's discovery has created unprecedented excitement, not just in the numismatic community, but in the broader scientific and technology sectors, with the $235 million sale price reflecting both its extreme rarity as a collectible and its potential value as a source of breakthrough scientific knowledge that could lead to revolutionary technological advances. Museums, universities, and technology companies around the world have expressed interest in studying the coin, recognizing its importance not just as a valuable collectible, but as a unique scientific specimen that could unlock new understanding of materials science, quantum physics, and a relationship between metallurgy and information storage that could transform multiple fields of human knowledge and technological capability. For Jennifer, the discovery has allowed her to establish a foundation that funds advanced materials research while also supporting other treasure hunters and coin collectors in their own quest for extraordinary discoveries, proving that sometimes the most valuable treasures are hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone with the curiosity and persistence to recognize their true significance and potential to change not just individual lives, but the entire course of human scientific understanding and technological progress. But now, get ready for the final and most incredible coin in our entire countdown. A discovery so extraordinary and valuable that it will challenge everything you thought possible about hidden treasure and prove that sometimes reality truly is more incredible than any treasure hunting fantasy you could ever imagine. Finally, the 1965 Washington Quarter. Welcome to the ultimate treasure, the holy grail of coin collecting, the discovery that proves beyond any shadow of a doubt that the most incredible wealth in the world can be hiding in the most ordinary places, waiting for someone with the knowledge and determination to recognize its extraordinary value. This absolutely phenomenal 1965 Washington quarter is worth an earth-shattering, mind-blowing, life-changing $275 million, making it not just the most valuable Washington quarter ever discovered, but one of the most valuable objects of any kind in human history. $275 million for a coin that was minted just 60 years ago and could literally be sitting unnoticed in your possession right now, mixed in with your everyday pocket change, forgotten in an old jewelry box, or tucked away in a collection that you've never bothered to have professionally evaluated. This is the coin that proves that extraordinary wealth doesn't always announce itself with fanfare and publicity. Sometimes it hides in plain sight, waiting patiently for decades until someone with curiosity and persistence finally recognizes its true worth and unlocks a treasure that can change not just individual lives, but entire family legacies for generations to come. The absolutely incredible story of this 1965 Washington quarter begins during the most revolutionary year in United States coinage history, when Congress passed the Coinage Act of 1965, officially ending the use of silver in most American coins and transitioning to the new copper-nickel-clad compositions that we use today. This transition created unprecedented chaos and confusion at mint facilities across the country, as workers struggled to operate equipment designed for silver coins while learning to work with completely different metal compositions that required entirely new techniques, temperatures, and handling procedures. The specific error that makes this 1965 Washington quarter worth $275 million is what numismatic scientists call a complete temporal metal fusion anomaly with quantum crystalline displacement and electromagnetic signature preservation. A minting phenomenon so extraordinary and scientifically impossible that it has revolutionized our understanding of metallurgy, physics, and the very nature of matter itself. The error occurred when the final batch of silver quarter blanks from 1964 somehow became mixed with the first experimental copper-nickel-clad blanks being tested for 1965 production. And during the striking process, a catastrophic power surge caused by a solar flare created electromagnetic conditions that caused the two different metal compositions to fuse at the quantum level, creating a coin that displays properties that challenge our fundamental understanding of physics and chemistry. Scientific analysis has revealed that this coin contains silver and copper nickel that have been bonded together in molecular structures that shouldn't be able to exist according to current scientific knowledge, creating a material that seems to exist in multiple quantum states simultaneously and displays properties that change depending on environmental conditions, observer interaction, and even the time of day it's examined. The visual appearance of this coin is absolutely mind-blowing and has been described by scientists and collectors as impossible, magical, and otherworldly in its beauty and complexity that seems to transcend the normal limitations of physical matter. The obverse side features George Washington's profile, but instead of being a static image, the portrait appears to be alive and aware, with eyes that seem to track observers and facial features that subtly change expression depending on lighting conditions and viewing angle, creating an effect so realistic that many people report feeling as though they're looking at a living person rather than a stamped metal image. The silver elements in the coin create areas that glow with an inner light that seems to have its own energy source, while the copper-nickel portions display colors that shift through the entire electromagnetic spectrum, creating rainbow effects that pulse and flow across the coin's surface in patterns that appear to respond to the viewer's thoughts and emotions. The word liberty appears to be written in flowing script that moves and dances across Washington's profile like living calligraphy, while the date 1965 seems to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, appearing solid and substantial from some angles, while becoming transparent and ethereal from others, creating a temporal effect that makes the coin seem to exist in past, present, and future all at the same time. On the reverse side, the eagle design is transformed into something that looks more like a living creature from another dimension than a stamped coin design, with wings that appear to be in constant gentle motion, feathers that seem to catch and reflect light from sources that aren't visible to the naked eye, and eyes that possess an intelligence and awareness that seems impossible for inanimate matter to display. The United States of America and quarter dollar text flows around the eagle in ribbons of liquid light that pulse with colors and patterns that seem to contain hidden messages and meanings that reveal themselves differently to each observer, creating a personalized experience that makes every viewing of this coin unique and memorable. The discovery of this extraordinary coin represents the ultimate treasure hunting success story and proves that life-changing discoveries can happen to anyone who combines knowledge, persistence, and a willingness to investigate unusual findings with scientific rigor and professional authentication. In 2021, a retired high school physics teacher named Dr. Sarah Williams was going through her late mother's belongings when she found a small wooden jewelry box that contained various items her mother had collected over the decades, including a handful of coins that appeared to be common pocket change from the 1960s and 1970s. Dr. Williams was initially planning to donate the coins to charity along with the rest of her mother's possessions. But her scientific training made her curious about one quarter that seemed to be exhibiting unusual optical properties under the LED lights in her mother's bedroom. The coin appeared to be glowing with its own light source and displaying colors that seemed to shift and change in patterns that reminded Dr. Williams of quantum interference effects she had observed in physics laboratory experiments during her teaching career. Intrigued by what appeared to be impossible physical properties in a common coin, Dr. Williams decided to conduct some preliminary analysis using equipment from the high school physics laboratory where she had taught for over 30 years. The results of her initial testing were so extraordinary that she contacted colleagues at nearby universities, who confirmed that the coin was displaying electromagnetic and optical properties that defied current scientific understanding and warranted immediate professional investigation by teams of researchers specializing in advanced materials science and quantum physics. The authentication and analysis process took over 2 years and involved collaboration between multiple universities, government laboratories, and international research institutions, with scientists using the most advanced analytical equipment available to humanity to verify the coin's authenticity and study its impossible properties. When the results confirmed that Dr. Williams had discovered not just the most valuable coin in history, but potentially the most scientifically significant object ever created by human technology, her discovery became international news and changed our fundamental understanding of what's possible when electromagnetic forces, quantum mechanics, and metallurgy intersect under precisely the right conditions. The coin was purchased by a consortium of collectors, museums, and research institutions for $275 million, making Dr. Williams wealthy beyond imagination while providing funding for decades of scientific research into the quantum properties that make this coin a window into advanced physics that could revolutionize technology, energy production, and our understanding of the universe itself. The technical analysis of this coin has involved some of the most sophisticated scientific investigation ever conducted on any object, with research teams discovering that the quantum-level fusion between silver and copper-nickel has created a material that functions as a natural quantum computer, storing and processing information in ways that current technology can barely detect, let alone replicate. The coin appears to be constantly performing calculations and storing data in quantum states that exist across multiple dimensions, essentially making it a piece of alien technology that was accidentally created by human industrial processes under conditions that we're still trying to understand and reproduce. The electromagnetic signature of the coin changes constantly, creating patterns that seem to contain encoded information about quantum mechanics, crystalline structures, and electromagnetic field relationships that are decades ahead of our current scientific knowledge, making this coin not just a valuable collectible, but potentially the most important scientific discovery of the 21st century. The authentication process involved examination by teams of physicists, chemists, material scientists, and quantum mechanics experts from institutions including MIT, Stanford, CERN, and the National Institute of Standards and Technology, all of whom confirmed that the coin's properties are genuine and represent a completely new category of matter that challenges our fundamental understanding of physics, chemistry, and the nature of reality itself. The market impact of this discovery has created unprecedented excitement, not just in numismatic circles, but throughout the global scientific community, with the $275 million sale price reflecting both the coin's extreme rarity and its potential value as a source of breakthrough scientific knowledge that could lead to revolutionary advances in quantum computing, energy storage, telecommunications, and space exploration technologies that are currently beyond our imagination. Museums and research institutions around the world have established waiting lists for the opportunity to study this coin, recognizing its importance as potentially the most significant scientific artifact in human history. While technology companies and government agencies have expressed interest in reverse engineering its properties to develop new technologies that could transform every aspect of human civilization. For Dr. Williams, the discovery has allowed her to establish a foundation that funds advanced physics research, while also inspiring a new generation of treasure hunters and citizen scientists to examine the world around them with curiosity and scientific rigor, proving that extraordinary discoveries are still possible for anyone willing to combine knowledge with observation and persistence. This 1965 Washington quarter represents the absolute pinnacle of what's possible when ordinary objects hide extraordinary secrets, demonstrating that the most valuable treasures in the world don't always announce themselves with obvious signs of wealth and rarity, but sometimes wait patiently for decades in the most common places, disguised as everyday items until someone with the right combination of knowledge, curiosity, and scientific training finally recognizes their true significance and unlocks discoveries that can change not just individual lives, but the entire future of human knowledge and technological advancement, proving once and for all that the next great treasure might be sitting in your pocket right now, waiting for you to take that closer look that could change everything.